wanna right some wrong, you can sing about it in a righteous song. And if you want a way to raise your voice up high, you can be a singer in the justice choir. If you are a citizen heavy of heart, you can take a tenor or an alto part. You can be a flame in a great big fire. You can be a singer in the justice choir. Sing out, make a better world, make a sound wave like a flag unfurled. Sing out like a liberty bell, ring out the truth you tell. Sing out, make it be known, sing like the trumpets of Jericho. Sing out at the tyrant's wall, sing until the last brick falls. Sing about courage in the face of fear, sing about light when the darkness nears. Sing about truth to the shameless lie, sing about freedom in the justice choir. Sing about the weak in the halls of power, sing about the earth in a desperate hour. Sing about the poor when the rich conspire, sing about love in the justice choir. Sing out, make a better world, make a sound wave like a flag unfurled. Sing out like a liberty bell, ring out the truth you tell. Sing out, make it be known, sing like the trumpets of Jericho. Sing out at the tyrant's wall, sing until the last brick falls. If you wanna shout, wanna right something wrong, you can sing about it in a righteous song. And if you want a way to raise your voice up high, you can be a singer in the justice choir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Oksana Werbiansky. Am I on?
You are.
Okay. And I am a member of the Board of Trustees of this congregation. Welcome to you all. The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Elkhart is a welcoming community, encouraging religious freedom, nurturing individual spiritual and ethical growth, celebrating diversity, and promoting a just and sustainable world. If you would like to learn more about this fellowship, please look at our website at uufe.org and join us after the service for our coffee hour.
Potluck.
Oh, gosh, it's potluck.
Yes.
More than coffee.
And coffee.
Yeah, potluck and coffee. For the listening enjoyment of all, we ask you at this time to please turn off all cell phones. Also, if you need hearing support, please ask for help at the sound desk back in the corner. Thank you.
Come, beloveds, into this sacred space, a place where justice and love intersect, where our dreams of a better world take root, and where we are reminded that greatness is not found in power or prestige, but in the quiet, humble acts of service. Today we gather to honor the enduring legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his call to embrace the drum major instinct, not for self-glorification, but to lead with love, to march for justice, to be first in acts of compassion. So let us kindle within ourselves a longing to serve one another, to seek righteousness, not recognition, and to cultivate a beloved community where all are uplifted. And in the words of Reverend Viola Abbott, we are Unitarian Universalists. When we lift up our principles, some of us think of them as a form of theology. But they are more important to our collective than that. They do not tell us what we should believe. They tell us how we should be. They tell us how we should act in the larger world and with each other. We are brought here today by the fact that Unitarian Universalism has fallen short of the image that was presented to the world and to many of those who embrace this religion. But we are also brought here today by the truth that Unitarian Universalism has shifted course to move toward a place of wholeness a place that perhaps never existed for us as a denomination. It's been a long and sometimes unforgiving road today. But we are here because we are mindful of that past and because we have hope for the future. We want to practice this faith and to be a fulfilling manifestation of its promise. And now, let us enter into worship together.
Our chalice lighting this morning is by Rebecca Savage. We light our flaming chalice as a beloved people, united in love and thirsting for restorative justice. May it melt away the tethers that uphold whiteness in our midst. May it spark in us a spirit of humility. May it ignite in us radical love that transforms our energy into purposeful action. This is a chalice of audacious hope. This chalice shines a light on our shared past, signaling our intention to listen deeply, reflect wisely, and move boldly toward our highest ideals. Let us recite together our unison covenant, which is in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our covenant. I invite you now to rise in body or spirit as we sing our first hymn, and it's number 146, Soon the Day Will Arrive.
There's always something mysterious about a hymn in the minor key, and this is a very nice tune. A little unfamiliar, but we'll get it.
Welcome to Story Time with Mrs. Parker. Today's reading is The Other Side by Jacqueline Woodson. Illustrations by E.B. Lewis. The Other Side. That summer, the fence that stretched through our town seemed bigger. We lived in a yellow house on one side of it. White people lived on the other. And Mama said, "Don't climb over that fence when you play." She said it wasn't safe. That summer there was a girl who wore a pink sweater. Each morning she climbed up on the fence and stared over at our side. Sometimes I stared back. She never sat on that fence with anybody. That girl didn't. Once, when we were jumping rope, she asked if she could play. And my friend Sandra said no, without even asking the rest of us. I don't know what I would have said. Maybe yes, maybe no. That summer, everyone and everything on the other side of that fence seemed far away. When I asked my mama why, she said, "Because that's the way things have always been." Sometimes when me and Mama went into town, I saw that girl with her mama. She looked sad sometimes, that girl did. "Don't stare," my mama said. "It's not polite." It rained a lot that summer. On rainy days, that girl sat on the fence in a raincoat. She let herself get all wet and acted like she didn't even care. Sometimes I saw her dancing around in puddles, splashing and laughing. Mama wouldn't let me go out in the rain. "That's why I brought you rainy day toys," my mama said. "You stay inside here where it's warm, safe, and dry." But every time it rained, I looked for that girl, and I always found her somewhere near the fence. Someplace in the middle of the summer, the rain stopped. When I walked outside, the grass was damp, and the sun was already high up in the sky. And I stood there with my hands up in the air. I felt brave that day. I felt free. I got close to the fence, and that girl asked me my name. "Clover," I said. "My name's Annie," she said. "Annie Paul. I live over yonder," she said, "by where you see the laundry. That's my blouse hanging on the line." She smiled then. She had a pretty smile. And then I smiled. And we stood there looking at each other, smiling. "It's nice up on this fence," Annie said. "You can see all over." I ran my hand along the fence. I reached up and touched the top of it. "A fence like this was made for sitting on," Annie said. She looked at me sideways. "My mama says I shouldn't go on the other side," I said. "My mama says the same thing, but she never said nothing about sitting on it." "Neither did mine," I said. That summer, me and Annie sat together on that fence. And when Sandra and them looked at me funny, I just made believe I didn't care. Some mornings my mama watched us. I waited for her to tell me to get down from that fence before I break my neck or something. But she never did. "I see you made a new friend," she said one morning. And I nodded, and Mama smiled. That summer, me and Annie sat on that fence and watched the whole wide world around us. One day, Sandra and them were jumping rope near the fence, and we asked if we could play. I don't care, Sandra said. And when we jumped, Sandra and me were partners the way we used to be. When we were too tired to jump anymore, we sat up on the fence, all of us in a long line. Someday somebody's gonna come along and knock this old fence down, Annie said. And I nodded. Yeah, I said. Someday.
Are dismissed to go to RE, and we are going to take our offering this morning. It will be shared with the Elkhart County Symphony Orchestra along with last week's.
Morally, I was led to nonviolence because I felt that it was the best moral way to deal with the problem. We were seeking to establish a just society. And it was my feeling then, and it is my feeling now, that violence is certainly much more socially destructive, and it creates many more social problems than it solves. So I was led to nonviolence for deep moral reasons. And I turned to it because I felt that it was the morally excellent way to deal with the problem of racial injustice in our country.
There is no freedom, the wise man said, let justice roll down, when the poor cry out for shelter and bread, let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary, walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Hatred will never drive out hate. Let love roll down, roll down. Remember, our hearts can make us great. Let love roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary, walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. And let your love roll down like a mighty stream. When brutality threatens our daughters and sons, let peace roll down, roll down. May our voices rise up louder than the guns. Let peace roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary, walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. And let peace roll down like a mighty stream. Step by step, one by one, let justice roll down, roll down. They can kill the prophet, but the dream lives on. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary, walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream.
I turned to it because I felt that it was the morally excellent way to deal with the problem of racial injustice in our country.
know there's a way to do this. Help? What am I doing? I guess I'll just do this. Now is the time in the service when we share with each other what's on our hearts, joys and sorrows, hopes, concerns, milestones and gratitudes. If you'd like to share, please come. Choose a stone or shell from the basket. Tell us your name so we may know you better. Let us know what you'd like to share and drop it in the bowl of water. You may also share silently, and personal sharings will not be recorded for YouTube.
So I invite you now to join with me in a moment of prayerful mindfulness and reflect on these words by Jeannie Sharrow. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Let the only burning be the fire of commitment in our hearts, minds, and spirits. In our community of faith, live solidarity. Use your voice. Demand justice. Better. Live it into being. Cry out for others to join you. Name hate as hate without shrinking back, without letting embarrassment or false humility or resistance or apologies for white skin get in the way. Direct all that energy to action. Standing with, speaking out. Be impassioned. Imagine the cry for response if our predominantly white church burned and people said, well, that's too bad, reminds me of another time. I heard that said from a human mouth. But that would not happen. Ours is not a black church. For us, the press would cover the story and swarm over it for days on end. Why is it different to our sister churches, black churches? Be indignant. Be indignant about the violent ending of so many black lives. Precious, precious, precious lives. Say it for every life that has been taken and you'd never stop speaking. Be outraged. Be outraged about the burning of houses of worship, sanctuaries of the Spirit, sacred communal spaces. Be awakened. Racism is alive. It will never die of old age, ancient though it is. Rather, it must be buried by human awakening to equality incarnate. Participate in the moment. Call out those perpetuating violence against black people and black communities. Demand action from those in power, the press, government, and everywhere. This story is not being told. Live differently. How? find out together, struggle to awaken, hashtag stay woke. There's no safe place from which to simply observe. All are already involved. Listen more often than speaking. Speak more often than being silent. When your words or actions could change the world even just a bit, in the flesh, in real time. Reflect on those words for a moment. Let's please remain seated for our next hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
Let us also ponder the images of jumping the fence. Are we willing to jump the fence and join those on the other side?
This reading is abridged from Austin Channing Brown's conversation with, I believe it's Brene Brown, called Unlocking Us. It's about whiteness and power over. My faith was born in the Black church, but growing up, I also was constantly surrounded by white evangelicalism. I've been around whiteness a long time and in all kinds of different denominations. I've seen them all. I learned the hard way. There's a deep difference between the Jesus that Black folks worship and the Jesus that white Christians worship. The Jesus that Black folks worship doesn't ask questions like, but does the gospel really have anything to do with race and justice? Black Jesus doesn't hesitate to say, Black lives matter. Black Jesus stands for the oppressed, cares about those who are most marginalized, and not just cares, sits with, lives with, fights with, is angered by the mistreatment of. protests with. White Jesus is primarily interested in self, in money, in capitalism. How much can I get? How much power can I hoard? It's all about self, and it's all about the preservation of self, of ego, mostly power, a deep desire to wield power over others. Power over is white Jesus. Power over is a Christianity that would say slavery is the way God intended things to be. My experience as a Black woman who has grown up in the era post the Civil Rights Movement and post perceived integration, my experience is that white folks want just a pinch of Blackness, just a splash, a smattering, a little toss of confetti of Blackness in order to affirm itself, in order to affirm its own goodness, in order to affirm its rightness, in order to get rid of any feelings of guilt, in order to keep itself comfortable so that it can continue to practice power over.
I'm not crying, my eyes are watering horribly. Tomorrow, our nation will once again honor the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This annual holiday raises up a man, a Black man, as the symbol of nonviolence and racial justice. Little children learn about him in school, and scarcely no one has never heard, at least in part, his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, won hundreds of other awards, earned a PhD, and was the face of the fight of racial equality and justice until his death in 1968. Yes, Dr. King should rightly be honored. Yet King himself said in his Drum Major Instinct sermon that he gave 2 months before his assassination that he did not want to be honored for these things. He wanted to be remembered as someone who dedicated his life to serving others. At the time he wrote the Drum Major Instinct sermon, Dr. King was in Memphis fighting for poor people, for trash haulers. He had turned his attention against Vietnam and the war, and he began working to improve the lives of poor people here, in addition to championing racial justice. Reverend William Barber's Poor People's Campaign is now an intentional extension of King's work during this period. King began his Drum Major Instinct sermon with a biblical story from the book of Mark, chapter 10. In that story, the 12 disciples were walking on the road to Jerusalem when they encountered Jesus. James and John went to Jesus and said to him, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask you." And Jesus said to them, "What is it you want me to do for you?" And they replied, "Grant us to sit one at your right hand and one at your left in your glory." But Jesus said to them, "You do not know what you're asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with?" And they replied, "Yes, we're able." Then Jesus said to them, "The cup that I drink, you will drink. With the baptism with which I am baptized, you will be baptized. But to sit at my right hand or my left is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared. So when the other 10 disciples heard this, they began to be angry with James and John. So Jesus called them and he said, "You know that among the Gentiles, those whom they recognize as their rulers lord it over them, and their great ones are tyrants over them. But it is not so among you. Whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wishes to be first among you must be slave of all. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many." So it sounds like James and John were being a bit selfish, right? They desired glory and esteem by sitting next to Jesus on his throne. But yet, what they asked for was not so unusual. They wanted to feel important, to have power and recognition and attention. They wanted to win. To a certain extent, we all desire these things. It's part of human nature, I think. As King put it, it's kind of a drum major instinct, a desire to be out front, a desire to lead the parade, a desire to be first. It's a desire to be important, to surpass others, to achieve distinction, to lead the parade. And we all have this drum major instinct. We all want to be important. We all want to win. Even kids have this instinct. We see it when they fight over who gets the larger piece of cake, right? We see it when they want the coolest clothes or the latest cell phones, so they'll have a higher status among their peers. And we see it in the disappointment on their faces when they do not receive the praise or recognition they thought they deserved. And the focus on this status, this praise, and material things stay with us throughout our adult lives. So as adults, most of us still crave praise. The promotion at work, awards, recognition, the validation that we're good people. But this drum major instinct also inspires us to pursue material things that make us feel good. From buying the right shoes, the fancy cars, the prestigious homes. Many of us are hell-bent on keeping up with the Joneses, and we end up practicing one-upmanship and living above our means. Folks obtain and consume far more than what is really needed to live. The King affirmed this when he said, "When you don't harness the drum major instinct, the uncontrolled aspect of it, it leads to snobbish exclusivism," that word. King went on to say that there is a danger in not controlling the drum major instinct. Left to run wild, it can become a force of classism by fostering a sense of exclusivity. He wrote, "The drum major instinct can lead to exclusivism in one's thinking and can lead one to feel that because he has some training, he's a little better than that person who doesn't have it. Or because he has some economic security, that he's a little better than that person who doesn't have it." And that's the uncontrolled, perverted use of the drum major instinct. So I think you might know where I'm going with this drum major instinct, this urge to have more, be more, win more, to be first. More is a fundamental element of racism and prejudice. It's not a large leap to figure out that unbridled drum major instinct can also set white skin above black skin. And when that happens, racism is the natural outcome. So let's return to the story of James and John for just a moment. Jesus was trying to teach them that it was okay to desire to be important. It's okay to be great and significant. Only they should do so for the right reasons. King put it this way. Jesus said, "Oh, I see you want to be first. You want to be great. You want to be important. You want to be significant. Well, you ought to be. If you are going to be my disciple, you must be." But he reordered the priorities, and he said, you don't give up this instinct. It's a good instinct if you use it right. It's a good instinct if you don't distort or pervert it. Don't give it up. Keep feeling the need to be important. Keep feeling the need to be first. But I want you to be first in love. I want you to be first in moral excellence. I want you to be first in generosity. That is what I want you to do. Essentially, Jesus taught his disciples that service to others is the ultimate mark of greatness and the ultimate fulfillment of the drum major instinct. He taught that power and recognition, this amassment of possessions and exclusivity among other things, mattered little, and that the most important things in life included working to relieve suffering, to fight for justice, and to love deeply, even those who are different from us. I think that we, as mostly white people in this congregation, need to pay attention to this lesson if we're ever going to be successful in dismantling racism and achieving racial equality and justice. We need to examine how we are consciously or subconsciously practicing this exclusivity. We need to ask ourselves, in what ways do we center our whiteness in such ways as to raise ourselves up while leaving people of color in the margins? We who are privileged simply due to the color of our skin must learn to better identify the words we use and the actions we take that contribute to our drum major superior positioning, and then figure out how to elevate marginalized people so that everyone is on a level playing field. I see Dr. King's sermon as a call for people, and in the context of this sermon, white people especially, to seriously reevaluate what's important in life. The question that I hear in Dr. King's words that needs to be answered is this: why do we focus on material things, engage in power struggles to gain dominance, strive to be better than our neighbors, our coworkers, and why do we have such an urge to put ourselves above those who do not look like us, think like us, act like us, or sound like us? Why don't we just instead focus on kindness, compassion, love, and acceptance? Now, I know some of you here are already deeply involved and committed to anti-racism work, and I thank you for your dedication. The truth is, though, all of us must engage with this. You may be feeling overwhelmed right now with work or kids, or maybe you're depressed or have health concerns or a host of other stressors. You may think that you can't possibly do anything else. And if that's the case, I get it. Life these days is really super hard. But I implore you to reconsider. I invite you to be open to expanding your comfort zones. So what do we do? How do we do the work that Dr. King lifted up and spoke so passionately about? I don't know all the answers. I don't know the truth in the world any better than you do. But we need to work together to find the answers. We need to identify what we can offer as a church to help move the racial divide that still exists here in Elkhart, in our state, and in our country. What will it take? What infrastructure is needed for us to do this work? And most importantly, are we willing to put ourselves out there and do the work? It's said that the arc of the universe bends toward justice. But how are we, the white people here in this church, how are we going to bend it? If you want answers to these questions and others, and if you want to use your drum major instinct for the betterment of society to reverse the course of rampant racism and to make a difference in the lives of marginalized people, I encourage you to get involved with the Social Justice Committee. I invite you to explore racism. Perhaps we could do a book group or a congregational read of a book like White Fragility. Maybe we can create an educational workshop. Who knows? There's a lot we can do. We can work with other organizations. I invite you to think about other creative ways that you can use your skills, your talents, your time, your passion. If nothing else, I want to suggest that you can be a witness for racial justice. You could be on guard to address racism both publicly and privately when and where you see it. As I say, see something, say something. As I mentioned earlier, Dr. King's drum major sermon was given 2 months before he died. And in this sermon, he eerily wrote his own obituary. In contemplating his own death and funeral, King wondered about what he would want to be said about him in his life. He decided that he didn't want people to mention his Nobel Prize, his hundreds of other awards, or have anyone give accolades about his achievements. The following is what he wanted said in his eulogy. And these are all quotes. I'd like somebody to mention that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to give his life serving others. I'd like for somebody to say that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to love somebody. I want you to say that day that I tried to be on the right side of the war question. I want you to be able to say that day that I did try to feed the hungry. And I want you to be able to say that day that I did try in my life to clothe those who are naked. And I want you to say on that day that I did try in my life to visit those who were in prison. I want you to say that I tried to love and serve humanity. Yes, if you want to say that I was a drum major, say that I was a drum major for justice. Say that I was a drum major for peace. I was a drum major for righteousness. And all of the other shallow things will not matter. I won't have any money to leave behind. I won't have the fine and luxurious things of life to leave behind, but I just want to leave a committed life behind. And that's all I have to say. So I leave you with this question to ponder for this week. What do you want your eulogy to say about your life? May it be so. And please join with me as we extinguish our chalice. The words are in your order of service. We extinguish this flame. And I leave you with the words by Kimberly Quinn Johnson. Hush. Somebody's calling your name. Can you hear it? Calling you to a past not quite forgotten. Calling us to a future not fully imagined. Hush. Hush. Somebody's calling our name. What shall we do? Go in peace.